Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to the Timcast IRL studios for the first time in a while. I'm your host, Billy Riddle, and with me, as always, is my trusty co-host who will never find himself in the Boston Harbor, Simon Winch. Both of us back from vacation.
Listen, this Kimasabi stuff, I don't know what you're driving at, Billy.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. What is Kimasabi?
Oh, come on, man. It's the Lone Ranger.
Ah, okay. It's a little bit out of my generational purview.
Oh, that's it. Now you're coming with ageism at
Well,
me.
I mean, it's factual. It's not really the ageism aspect of things. It's good to be back on the show. It's been a while. It's been a few weeks. Last week we didn't release anything. That's the first time in like 3 years since I started the show that I went a week and didn't release. And I kind of thought about it. I was like, man, I should have went back and released one of our Patreon episodes or something to get something out there. But I don't know. I think maybe just a good start from fresh and get the week in there. You, of course, on vacation, and you come back and then I go on vacation. Had a blast. How about you? How was your vacation first and
Well,
foremost?
we all went to Bimini. And that was Heather, the girls, and Mum and Dad. And we went on a diving vacation. And it was absolutely glorious. We had that basically, I mean, Heather's mum, she's going to be 79 at the end of the month. And we had 3 generations of divers in the water in Bimini. With an ungodly amount of sharks, I may add, which was, I mean, just so cool for the girls that they took it in their stride. It was just phenomenal. What an experience. So yeah, we were absolutely thrilled to get out on a boat, get down and dirty, get in the coral, get in the good stuff, see 5 different species of sharks.
You were
And
telling
some
me
of them
before the
were
show
monsters.
that you were swimming around you counted up to 22 sharks in your.
That
I
one,
mean, see, that's. I mean, look, just as a mountain man, here's how. I mean, put yourself in our position. Would you walk in a field amongst 22 black bear? That's the equivalent.
well,
I think that's it, and probably worse because a black bear you can use what you were meant to use, which is your legs and your arms. In the water, that shark has complete and total dominance. There's no gun that's going to help you. There's no screaming that's going to help you. Nothing. That's insane. And hungry sharks, probably.
Well, the fact was when we did this particular dive, the guys dropped an anchor and instantly there were 8 or 9 sharks on the surface. I'm like, well, that's unusual. I used to dive with sharks pretty much every day, so they don't bother me at all. There's a couple that I pay closer attention to than others, and there's a couple that I wouldn't want to be in the water with. Unfortunately, I've had that situation. But anyway, this particular situation, they were reef sharks, are fairly non-aggressive. However, they're all unpredictable. So anyway, there's at least 8 of them that I counted on the surface. And I looked at the boat dude and the dive master and said, how are we getting in? He goes, oh, they're conditioned. I said, conditioned for what? Oh, well, they're fed. I said, but we're not doing a shark feeding here. He goes, no, we're not. I said, so does that not make us the feed?
Well,
I mean,
that's a very good question to ask.
It was a little tongue in cheek.
Well, obviously, because you know exactly what the hell you're doing.
So I was going in anyway. So anyway, I was the first off at the back of the boat, and everyone followed, and then we got to the bottom, and it was only 20 feet, 25 feet, something like that. And then I did a head count, so all the girls were with me. And there were 22 sharks in the water with us, and being extremely graceful, very docile. There was no aggressive signals that sharks can give. and you learn to recognise exactly what they are, and it's very territorial. But there was no sign of that in any way, shape, or form. So we went, did our dive, poodled around the reef, saw some cool stuff, and as we came back to the boat, they all came back with us. And having sharks almost swamp you when you're looking to get out of the water is a very uncomfortable feeling.
That is definitely something I'd like to do. I'd like to go somewhere with Claire, especially when she gets a little bit older, because I think that's something she would really like, is to be able to dive down and see some stuff like it, because people don't understand. I think we've explored less of the ocean than we have outer space.
Absolutely, we have.
So there's so much there.
I mean, now figure this. Like my two daughters, Heather's she's probably got a couple of thousand dives under her belt, so she's a very seasoned diver. For the girls, this was their first ocean dive, having been certified in, I think it was a lake just south of. It was in Virginia. It was south of Richmond. Anyway, and that's a very cool lake, incidentally. But this was their first ocean dive. Now Heather took the girls on a hammerhead dive. Now hammerheads are the ones that I air with a little bit of caution, because when they've been ejected from their social group, they've been ejected from their social group for probably antisocial behaviour. Right? Read between the lines, folks.
Yeah.
So anyway.
The commies.
The communist bastards. So anyway, the girls go, and they've got some just amazing pictures of this 16-foot female hammerhead shark, whose just size is immense. This thing is just circling around them. They're being fed, and there's a very strict protocol about how you do this. So you're not throwing caution to the wind. There's at least, I think there was 4 dive staff with them in this situation. And anyway, nonetheless, they went in there and feeding this hammerhead shark. And then I think there was a smaller hammerhead, and then rocks up a 10-foot tiger shark.
And those two are the more aggressive ones when it comes, like, there's tiger and hammerheads are typically the ones that are, and maybe bull sharks, other than great whites. Or maybe not bull sharks.
The great white's the one that really would unnerve me, and has in the past.
Jaws did that to an entire generation of people, regardless of their expertise.
Yeah, but that was exactly that, and that was a great white. That one is, again, that's number one. That holds the primary position, and rightly so, as a fairly dangerous shark. The other one that I did come across in West Caicos was a Atlantic oceanic white-tip shark. It shouldn't have been there, but it was 20 feet underneath me. And that is one shark I didn't expect it to be there. But it's a very aggressive shark. And then the third one that holds my position of fear is the bull shark.
Okay, the bull, that's what I was, okay.
Yeah. And we had bull sharks off the dock that were being fed. The girls were feeding bull sharks by hand. Yeah, not right.
No. Now, fancy me this, though, since you're a man of the ocean. Jaws, obviously you've seen the movie before, correct? I think a big chunk of that movie was filmed down in Destin, Florida, where we went on vacation. I'll talk about our trip here in a moment. But the whole premise of the movie was, obviously it was filmed in Destin, but it was supposed to be a New England town. That's where the setting was.
That's right.
And the whole concept was, it's unbelievable that a great white shark would be this far north. And that was the general consensus 40 years ago. But now, is it just because we've learned more with technology, or has things gotten warmer? But now it's not. They're finding great white sharks in places they never anticipated to find them. Why is that?
I don't think that's the case at all. I think they've always been there. There are websites now out there that have these sharks that have been tagged by whatever university or the Smithsonian or National Geographic. they've got these sites out there where you can actually track a number of different species, and obviously great whites are on there. And up and down the eastern seaboard, they are regular visitors coming up from Florida, going past the Outer Banks and then up into New England. I mean, they've always been there. So yeah, I would dispute that it's so unusual to see them. No, not really.
Well, I know for us, we did our vacation down in Fort Walton Beach, which is right there next to Destin, Florida, and it's for me. I'd never been there until I got married. Tara and her family always like to go there because Eglin Air Force Base is there, and that's where her parents were stationed before she was born.
That's
for about 10
the
years.
Panhandle side.
Yes, and it's beautiful down there, and one big reason I think I actually posted about this week. I guess maybe it's very white sands, very beautiful. And those sands apparently are part of what's Appalachia River, and all the Appalachian Mountains over the millions of years or however long have apparently deposited, quartz particles into the river that goes down and flows into the Gulf, and it brings back the white sand. So you're technically walking on the remnants of the Appalachian Mountains while you're out there on the beach. So you're still technically in Appalachia.
Right on.
So I kind of like, I've always been a Myrtle Beach guy simply because we went as kids, and that's where a lot of people around here go, the Redneck Riviera. And as I got a little bit older, it was fun because of the golfing and stuff back when I had time to do that. It was a blast. Myrtle Beach has kind of gone to shit like most every other city.
We love the Outer Banks, but not the duck side. We want to go down Hatteras and Frisco. But don't tell that to anyone.
Well, when we go as well, like we'll go into the Myrtle Beach area, but we'll stay down in below Surfside, Murrells Inlet kind of neck of the woods, which is a lot more laid back and relaxed. Same thing with North Myrtle Beach. It's nice. And, there's some nice places still to go in there. The women like shopping or whatever, but my wife doesn't like the Atlantic as much for whatever reason. She prefers the Gulf, and I'm fine by that. I like having Myrtle Beach here close, but if I'm going to do the family thing, and I was telling her too, I said, man, maybe not next year. And I'll explain why here in a minute. I got an announcement on our side, but next year we might not be able to do it. But the following year I was telling her, I said, I'd love to, maybe get up with, every year with Simon and Amos and my buddy Matacek, who was supposed to come up this year and had a scare. And I think I told him to quit visiting those bathhouses down there in those Cajun bathhouses outside of New Orleans. He goes and visits, but he had to have he couldn't show up for a reason, kind of similar to. He had one of those kind of scares, and he was going to come and hang out for a few days, him and his kids, and let Claire and them play. And he didn't get a chance to make it, but which sucks because I've been down to New Orleans like 4 or 5 times, and every time I went down, I'd give this little bastard a call, and every time, oh yeah, I'm around, blah blah blah. I'd tell him I don't know the area. I don't know. I mean, been to New Orleans. I'm on this street. Come find me.
There's a couple of places you shouldn't go.
Exactly.
Let me tell you.
Well, I found myself in one of those places one night till about 5 o'clock in the morning and almost missed my flight, and subsequently put a girl probably through a college. Larry Flint. But Montecheck, I went there 4 or 5 times, and every time he would, for some reason, he'd never show up and I wouldn't see him. And I invited him to my wedding. He actually showed up for that. And I had a chance to go. We met for my birthday a couple of years ago in Biloxi and went to the casino or whatever. But I was thinking, got a big group of us down there. Let's go chip in, rent a house, stay for like 10 days or whatever. And everybody, because I know you were telling me on the phone, you're like, well, I kind of like the islands and stuff. I said, well, Destin, it's the beach is not kind of what you're going to want for the diving side of things, but it's a nice town to go and relax and have a good time. And it's a lot of good, wholesome people. It's not like the rest of Florida where you get the stereotype where everybody's, it's just a little crazy. They're more kind of country people in the panhandle,
Yes.
So it's laid back, and the seafood is phenomenal. Like, I've never been a fan of seafood, but every time I go down there, I start ordering more and more dishes that I never would have touched anywhere else. And they're phenomenal. Grouper. Like, I had some blackened grouper and it blew my freaking mind.
We had conch every day whilst we were in Bimini.
What is that?
It's
I might need to water that down a little bit more.
It's basically a
mollusk
shell. Yeah.
Okay.
It's phenomenal. And I'm not going to say that we brought any back. Read between the lines. But yeah, having Kong and again, all the seafood, a lot of the Bimini's quite a, it's undeveloped. And I'll say that in the area that we stayed was the undeveloped part. There's been a new development there with cruise ships coming in and it's a small island, and the wealth that the cruise ships bring is very selective about who gets to benefit from it. And there's some very negative things and opinions I have of cruise ships coming into these small, tiny islands, and they're doing, irreparable damage. And it's all about greed at the end of the day, and only a few people get to benefit. And to see it happen to Bimini, this was my wife's first island that she lived on, was heartbreaking. But the heart of it is still there, which is the good news.
Well, that's kind of like apparently how Destin and Fort Walton Beach used to be. It used to be very remote when her parents were there back in the 70s and 80s, I believe. That's when they were stationed there, and it was kind of like a small town atmosphere, like as it was in Jaws, and it's gotten not massively corporatist. It's probably a 60-40 split. A lot of the local establishments have held on. I will say this. I've had 3 steaks in my life that have blew my mind, other than what friends have cooked around here. One was at the Golden Steer in Las Vegas for a honeymoon. One is over at Frankie Rowland Steakhouse, which any of you listening could probably go get in Roanoke, Virginia, downtown. Tomahawk ribeye, Wagyu. My God. The third is McGuire's Irish Pub. I sent you a few pictures of that the other night. Did. That is a must. Every time we go to Destin, we make sure, or go down there, we make sure we go to McGuire's every night. And the ribeye, it's about $54 now. In comparison, I think the one in Vegas was about $60, and the one at Frankie Rowland's, which is a tomahawk ribeye, I usually pay $100 for because it's completely something different. I think they've got about a $50, $60 one over at Frankie Rowland's, kind of comparable to what, but McGuire's, those other places, the other 2 I named are low lit, cloth on the table, fine establishments. This is an Irish pub where people in there getting sloshed. There's dollar bills hanging from the wall, and about $1.5 million in the entire place hanging from the wall in $1 bills. People leave up there. They get about every single year. And the steak is phenomenal. I mean, it blows your mind. So I see. And this is kind of one of the reasons I can't wait till we get cameras in here, because I can sit here and do this little plug for McGuire's and then tag them on it, and maybe they send up, say, hey, next time you're in town, here's a steak on us. Because I'm going to tell you what, and the same thing with seafood. There's a lot of other places down there we went to. I wish,
my best man and I did our commercial captain's license in Fort Lauderdale, and much to the just the rest of the class were in shock that we spent every lunchtime and every evening in McGuire's, another Irish establishment. And we were the 2 that came out top of the class. I'm not going to rub it into Carter that I was actually the first, but there we go. But McGuire's, yeah, that's my memory of a McGuire's. It's in Lauderdale, but it's at the other side.
I tell you what, whatever it is, when you're down there, we go every single year. They've got a little pizza joint kind of on the side. They've got a bar outside you can get drinks at while you wait, because sometimes there's a longer wait, but the restaurant's massively big. And like I said, the menu is great. Everything I've ever had off that is good. The shepherd pie, my in-laws get the other night, they got whatever.
Bangers and mash, mate. Fish and chips.
Yes, every bit of it's delicious. I get the steak every time, but yeah, it's cool.
Could I legitimately go there and have a fish and chips?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It would probably knock your socks off.
Yeah, because you take the piss out of me every time.
We also found a really good German restaurant of all places. And this is a good thing about Destin, why I also would suggest, hopefully in a couple of years, all of us can go down there together. Because I honestly think in a couple of years, we're going to have enough clout on this show that we're going to have extra money flowing in to where maybe we can even just charter a flight ourselves and get down there. Because you're around an Air Force.
Have you been reading some of my posts today?
No, I have not. We'll get into that, though. I have Here's a lot of things people don't understand. Why Destin and Fort Walton Beach is so good for the food as well, which is a good reason we all should go down there, because food is a great reason. Around an Air Force bases, along with Army bases, but Army bases are always in shit towns. A lot of these people spend a lot of time overseas, Thailand, Germany, Italy, whatever these countries are. They marry these women and they bring them back over here and eventually start restaurants. They bring their families over here. So around an Air Force base, they come, they retire there, boom, and they bring their family. So we went to a German restaurant that was phenomenal. We were going to do Korean barbecue or Korean steakhouse, but it looked very pricey and it was the last day. I was like, maybe in a couple of years we'll come back. Me and Tara will just go and leave the kids at home for that one. But the food's so good, and the seafood, I find it more and more appealing. So, I enjoy the vacation. I think we all needed it. And
this is your diversity coming out here, Billy. And
very much so. My palate is increasing.
I'm feeling culinarily shocked.
Well, I mean, it's just I'm exhausted from it, and when you have kids, vacation's never a vacation. You need some more time and days. So, but we crammed as much as we could in. Also, the coolest part about it too is we went down on the Wednesday while we were down when we drove to Pensacola Beach from Fort Walton. Now, this ride, you go down to Navarro, then you kind of go over this bridge, and you get on. It's kind of still Okaloosa Island technically, but once you get a little bit out of Navarro, which is kind of a smallish town, you get to absolutely nothing. So you're driving and you're actually seeing what it looked like before we ever got here. There's no hotels, there's nothing. It's just white sand beaches to your left and then a bay to your right. And You're just driving through there. And we went down to catch the Blue Angels do their practice for about an hour.
You sent the pictures, mate. They were phenomenal.
Really, really cool. But then Tara had looked up the best place to go watch it. And I encourage anybody, if you ever vacation that neck of the woods, my wife's really good at this kind of stuff. I actually showed her a meme the other day. It said there's two kind of people on a vacation. One, it's like, I've got our passports, I've got our IDs, I've got everything packed, I've got our luggage, blah, blah, blah. And the other spouse is, great, where are we going again? That's me. She does a phenomenal job of finding. She found this stuff, so she's like, and this is the best place to go watch
Heather
it.
Was determined for the Bimini trip. I mean, determined.
She was like, this is the best place to go watch, and the best place was this place called Fort Pickens, which was erected, and I want to share some photos of this place back in the 1800s, and
coastal fortification, right?
Yes, absolutely. So obviously, it's an Army base, and you go in there and we get to the end of it and we're sitting on this old wall and sitting on the beach and watching Blue Angels. And afterwards we go take a tour of the fort. And it's just like, God, there was a cannon up there, Simon, and the son of a gun was as big as this room, and it could spin around in 360 degrees and fire into the bay, fire into the ocean. This was the place that Geronimo was held at one point in time. Wow. And they got to walk through there and see all that kind of stuff. I got a lot of crazy ideas about that. It'd be really fun. But that was a really cool part of the trip as well, because I don't really go to the old forts and military. That was the first time I'd been to one. And so you go down there and you got to see the Blue Angels and get a little bit of tour of history and that kind of stuff and walk through and see how they fortified things. It kind of blows your mind. It's like, how in the 1800s did they get all the way out here with all this stuff and then build it into this condition where it still lasts today? Because a lot of the crap they build today doesn't last 20 years. We can't even get a good godforsaken dishwasher or washing machine to last 5 years. But there's forts out here that are going on for,
Made in America, mate. There you go.
But we needed
There's a plug.
For us, and we might have mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're drinking a little bit of liquor today. We're celebrating and all this kind of stuff. We needed the vacation, and last week we didn't release an episode. It was the first time in 3 years I've done this show. Yeah. I didn't release anything, and I thought I could have released a Patreon show or whatever, but we needed the break. We needed just maybe a restart, a refresh, kind of out with the old and in with the new, because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up here in the future. And this may be, the time here at the Timcast RL Studios is kind of winding down. I mean, we'll still maybe come back here from time to time and do a show if we got to on an emergency basis. But this room is going to have to be occupied by other tenants here in the very near future.
There we go.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. So we are expecting our third. And we kind of kept it under wraps for the longest time, and for good reason. Tara was just super terrified, because hers is considered a geriatric, and Tara is such a beautiful soul. She'll sit there and take a sip of caffeine before she even knew she was pregnant, and it will bother the piss. She's like, "Oh my God, I drank caffeine before I knew." And I'm like, look, there are kids out here that are born to crackheads right out of the womb that turn out to be okay. I said, I think we're going to be fine. And so now we've done all the, major tests and went through all the, all the things to make sure everything's good to go and everything's fine. We got a healthy little, God help me, girl coming. And
fantastic
September,
news.
August at the
absolutely fantastic news.
Yeah, so
congratulations to you all.
We were certainly done after number 2. And this, the Lord has different ambitions sometimes, and maybe He's telling us we're doing something right. We did. I'll show you after the show. We've got these little 4D images. We went down to Florida. We went to do the first sonogram, whatever the hell you call it. And they do these 4D images now, and looks just like me again. It looks just like Claire and Benjamin both did in the womb. The genes
fantastic.
Are strong.
There
genes are strong. So so we've got. So that's one of the big reasons why in the last few weeks we've only done a couple of shows and thinned them out a little bit. We've had a lot going on and with that, and so I'm hoping. It seems that we're in the process of potentially getting some top of the line equipment, video stuff. Looks like that's falling into place. So hopefully the next few weeks we'll have that lined up and essentially moving up to the cabin maybe to start doing the shows permanently. I'm excited about that. And we have so many guests lined up right now, some phenomenal guests. And not to say our guests, I enjoy bringing Stuart on and Crunches. It's nice to have him around here locally because those shows always pop off.
I've got someone to come on with Stuart.
Perfect.
He's just been in touch with me. You can blame Beth Preston for this, bless her.
Photography by Beth Preston, by the way. Go check her out. Follow her on Facebook.
Absolutely.
A lot of our professional photos you see out here were taken by her. She does
just great work.
Phenomenal job. Yeah, and she's very personable. The kids always like her. Yeah. She's willing to come to you. Go check her out.
So she is responsible for this next introduction of a guest that I thought would be supremely suited to join Stuart whenever we do that next show. And I'll say no more than that.
I'm looking forward to it, but I want people to understand we have massively big following, influential people with large followings on social media accounts, people who are very well accredited, lined up to do the show, and we've been holding off because we want to get them on for the video aspect of it. We want those reactions because, with Simon and Amos and Chip, when he comes in for the shows, and Smokey when they come in for the shows, we get these guest hosts coming in and out. Their reactions.
It's very dynamic.
Yes, their reactions will make great clips on the internet, and those great clips help get us out there. And when we get out there, we bring more and more attention to the Appalachian area. And
only good will come of it.
Yes. So next kid coming, and hopefully the cameras are lined up, and we're going to be taking this show off to another. And if it can work out right, perhaps with Starlink, we might be able to actually start going live up there as well. So if we go live on YouTube, that'll give the ability for people to live chat with us when we're talking. Somebody, obviously, we'll need a producer up there, obviously, kind of going back and forth, and then people will be checking the chats and stuff. They can give super chats and donations and stuff like that to get things read. So it'll be, we got a lot of cool stuff coming up and a lot of phenomenal people.
Do I get my own changing room?
If we get enough, if we get there, you will. I promise you. That's my goal. My goal is for us to have that kind of pull, and I think we've got the ability to it. We've got the ability. To do that pull. Another big way you can help is by going to patreon.com/GetOnTap and becoming a subscriber for just 10 cents a day minimum. You can always give more, and we appreciate those who do. For just 10 cents a day, you become a subscriber, and you get a lot of these shows early. You get our after shows we do a lot of times, and here coming up in
They can be a bit fruity.
Once we get the cameras and stuff rolling, we're going to start doing some of these big name guests. We'll have VIP events with them, maybe down here at Rocky Mount Burger Company, maybe at Rocky Mount Smokehouse. We'll do private events up there in the barrel room where you get to meet and greet some of our guests, and subscribers will have the ability to get first dibs on those. So, you do get shows early, and it's really helping us out because we're starting to get to the point now where we're branching out quite a bit, and the bills do add up, gas money, money to get us and for alcohol to get us in the prime shape to do this show. Look, NFL players need Gatorade. We need alcohol. It sets us up right and gets us in the right mood. But even if y'all didn't pay for the alcohol, we'll make sure our hard-earned money takes care of that. But for gas money and for food and for travel, some of these places and trying to get some of these people in here, a lot of times we have to pay for their rooms, and we'll throw, some extra money out there to get them in here. But we get them into this part of Appalachia. We sell them on Appalachia, and they come back and they start investing their time, effort, and money. The Morris Hotel hopefully is going to be open here soon. You got the early in. We bring these people in. Their mind is blown. Next thing you know, they're bringing their whole team in here for their retreats. And they're going to the lakes. They're going to the mountains. They're riding four-wheelers. They're fishing. They're floating the rivers, and they're spending money here. They're going to our restaurants, and they're going to come back. And maybe 1 out of 5 of them decides, I'm going to buy me a little place here. They're based. Come on in here. And now we got more. You know what I mean? So all your support helps at patreon.com/GetOnTap. Yeah. And you're supporting us. You're supporting local. Like I said, you're going and you'll spend your $3 on a Coke at a gas station once a month. Or you spend $10 at Starbucks. 3 is minimum to become a subscriber. You can always give more. 10 would be great. 20 would be awesome. If you do 50, we'll bring you on here and let you have your own show. But every little bit helps. And if you just want to do a one-time donation, you go to Patreon, you go to Venmo or Cash App, both at Get On Tap. $10 here, 20, like I said, and we're having a lot of fun, and we're doing some really cool things. We've got some phenomenal guests lined up. We've got some great people, and we want all y'all to be a part of it. You know what I mean? So we ask for subscribers. We want all y'all to be a part of it. Look, we're building a network here. It's not about us. We want people using your businesses when you come subscribe. We had Dakota on a couple weeks ago. Apparently, Big Lick Roofing, go check them out. Apparently, they've got an influx of calls since we had him on the show, and that's great because he offers a great product, a phenomenal service. And he's a young, ambitious guy.
Exactly. It's cutting edge what he's got. The product really covers all the fears that everyone has regarding the old style solar panels. And this discussion point goes into a lot of what's happening county wise as well, is that the solar farms are obviously very much have a very, very negative viewpoint locally and how they operate. But I've always thought the best footprint for solar has always been residential.
There you go. It doesn't need to be centralized so much.
It doesn't. And when you get into that centralized stuff, there's something coming down that isn't necessarily scaled up for that. And I think what Big Lick are offering is cutting edge technology for residential, which is how it should be.
I think so too. Like solar should be about self-sustainability because it's becoming pretty clear that it doesn't make sense on a large scale effort. Because think about it, you see it. A hailstorm comes through, a tornado comes through, boom. A hailstorm or tornado comes through on power lines. It'll knock down power lines maybe for a mile or so. Those guys are in there in 2 days, and boom, it's fixed.
You've got a slight issue there, because the way that product, depending upon how it's installed, you will still be subject to those power outages, depending upon how you do it.
But if you have a battery for backup?
Well, that's exactly, depending upon how you do it. But what we're seeing locally with AEP rates going through the roof, and this is all about the shareholders' dividends being way ahead of the customers, and we end up footing the bill. Now, if you're running a residential solar, you're selling that power back to AEP, and you're basically putting yourself in a net energy efficient model. And that's a great thing. That's a great way to be. If you want to expand it and have battery banks, then you can be energy independent throughout some of the outages that we experience with weather and whatever. So, yeah, I think the residential model gives us a lot more independence and gets us away from this corporate greed that we're being basically raped by. So I'm all for it. I think he's got a great product. I think he's got a great company, great innovation. And I know he's going to be an extremely successful individual.
Yeah, check him out on his, he DJs weddings and parties and stuff too. I think it is a DJ Dakota. I can't remember. I don't know if he's got a Facebook page or whatnot, but you can find him at the Big Lick Roofing page on Facebook. Shoot him a message if you got events like that. Supporting local, you're supporting a young Appalachian. Look, these are the kind of young individuals that we need to be promoting and uplifting and giving these kids, these younger generational kids, an idea of what direction you can go. Look, you don't have to go burden yourself with 4 years of college to come out and be in debt and go be a barista. You can get out there and grab the bull by the horns if you want to. Some people start off a little bit, further ahead than others, but that doesn't mean you can't come out on top. So yeah, go check them out. That was a phenomenal show. He's a great guy, and I hope to get him on the show here again here in the future. So, like I said, it's the self-sufficient side of things. I think for solar makes a lot of sense. I think wind is kind of a joke. Nuclear is probably the smartest, but all the hippies won't allow that to happen. It's very clean and very cheap.
You have to be, with your energy policy, there is no question that you have to be diverse. Whether it's geothermal, whether it's wind, tide. I'm not so much in favour of the wind turbines. The horror stories are out there. Just they speak for themselves. But tidal, that's a huge one. Obviously, hydroelectric. But again, a lot of these projects feed into the national corporate greed. But for me, solar energy gives you that energy independence, and you own it. You benefit directly from it. You are the shareholder, and I kind of think that's a great concept. It is about self-sustainability.
Well, yeah, and if everything goes down and you have yourself set up right, then you're still going to have electricity. Who knows how long it'll last.
Then we come down to the battery technology and all of that good stuff as well. So there's a lot to take into account, but it certainly fits the residential model extremely well. And I think all new build projects should consider that as part of their development projects.
Well, I know, let's see, what else? We have some other announcements. Oh yeah. So huge announcement. So it's official now as of this afternoon, but this weekend, cause I cleared it with work, Memorial Day weekend, myself and our buddy Chip, who's one of our recurring co-hosts and the leader over there at Being Libertarian, which I suggest everybody go follow at Facebook, X, or Instagram, Being Libertarian. Look him up. You'll see the seal. We all follow each other. He and I will be going and covering the Libertarian Party National Convention in D.C.
Big deal. Big deal.
Now, normally, not many people would be that interested in this kind of thing, and especially this year, which shouldn't be the case. Honestly, coming out of 2020, I thought the Libertarian Party had a lot of steam with the likes of Spike Cohen and Dave Smith and Justin Amash. And for whatever reason, it seems like maybe the LP hasn't chased Spike like maybe they should have. Dave Smith ended up declining for good reason. I don't blame him. He's got a family, young kids. And maybe he does better doing what he's doing. Justin Amash has decided to run for Senate. So the presidential bids, we've had Mike Tremont on the show, obviously. Yep. He's going to be in the running. He's going to be up there. Guy.
I mean, there's our DC economist.
Yes, White House economist. Yeah. He sat in here in this room and had a great show with him. I urge to go back and listen to that show. But it's these guys, the guys are throwing out there to go up against the likes of Biden, Trump, and Kennedy, they've kind of fallen short. With that being said, the convention this year, for whatever reason, Donald J. Trump has decided to attend, as has Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Vivek Ramaswamy. I think that, of course, Dave Smith's going to be our good friend Spike Cohen. We're going to see him. A bunch of other people.
Something's coming down the pipe.
So Chip applied for media passes from being libertarians. We've got a booth there, and we've also got press passes in the pit. So I'm hoping for that, we'll be able to stand there with our cameras and stuff when Trump is speaking, RFK is speaking. We'll be able to get, hopefully, sound bites, photos, all kinds of things like that. Maybe even a miniature interview. Chip's been reaching out to some other people. Thomas Massey's going to be there. So it's a huge event. We're going there with the anticipation to get a lot of eyes on Appalachia. We're going to go up there and ask these guys as many questions about what you can do for our region. Or actually, not what you can do. What can we do? You know what I mean? I don't want it to sound like we're counting on you. I want to know what we can do to improve our lives, in the Appalachian region. So another big reason to go to patreon.com/GetOnTap and support us, because that money goes for endeavors like this, to go up to DC and get these rooms, pay for our meals up here, which isn't cheap, but we're putting eyes on our region. We're putting eyes on Rocky Mountain. We're going up there and handing out my brochures. I'm going to hand one to Trump if I can. Hey, look, I know you go to a lot of big cities. You can't go to every small town. Come to ours. Here, this is why. Hand him the brochure. What happens if he does say yes? You know what I mean? Like these are big things.
Spike said yes, and that was we sold it on a cannon and moonshine.
Exactly. we can throw the same deal at Trump. We can throw the same deal at RFK. We're going to get in front of these people, and we're going to take our shot. So, really excited about that. So after that, we and Chip and I also have another big announcement about some branching off and things that we're going to announce here soon. And Simon's going to be a part of that as well. We'll all, but we're kind of doing a branch out deal, kind of expanding a little bit. Me and Chip probably going to announce that this weekend at the Libertarian Party National Convention. So we'll announce that up there, and hopefully with Spike, because I think he's going to chip in and help out with us a little bit on this, and we'll go into detail about that maybe on a show here in the future, but we'll talk about it this weekend. I'm going to take the podcast equipment up, maybe get a show or two. I'll probably set it up at the booth. Maybe we'll get a couple of sound bites, but Chip's got some cool recording equipment. We're going to be able to plug into the speeches, Trump's speech, and get clear audio of that while me and him come back and maybe commentate on it or whatever. So it's going to be really, really cool. So,
that's massive, Billy. Massive deal.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think Tim Pool's going to be up there, the guy from Timcast, who we the studios after, who was generous enough to give us a huge chunk of money back in the fall. So hopefully I can get a chance to get in front of him and, give him my thanks and appreciation, and hand him a State of Appalachia flag. So this needs to go in your studio, since you are in the Appalachian region now. So, and get in front of these people and make some connections. Chip and I go make
we need to set a date with Tim Pool. That's for sure.
Well, we can get some of his people down here. He does his show 5 days a week, and it's always up there, and he's very strict about it. Hopefully we'll get up there and get on his show at some point in time, but I'd like to get some of his people down here, if not him, or maybe even him, because it's not that far. Get him down for a weekend or something like that. We'll get in front of him. Like I said, everybody that listens to this show, you're huge supporters just by listening, and all the people that aren't here every week, and some of the people that, chip in here or there, like, y'all are all super important, and everything you do draws people back to this area for your generosity and your kindness. Like when people speak with y'all, when you come out to our events, you come out to meet our people, you really, y'all are awesome. And the more people we can get in front of y'all, the more people we can get down here, the more Rocky Mount and the Appalachian region is going to become a destination for some of these people.
It'll be synonymous with an entertainment destination. What the town is doing now with festivals and so forth is fantastic. We've seen the Harvester come up, and it's really making an impact now, which we're delighted to see.
Well, maybe after we see their finances. I mean, the acts have gotten better.
It's got consistent. They're putting on great shows. The town is prospering, I feel.
Well, this is a great segue right here, because that's one of the things that we're going to talk about probably more in depth in a couple of weeks. But the town has once again went out and purchased another building. Now, that kind of be a big event here recently. A lot of people talked about it. A lot of people would put in their 2 cents, and hopefully we might be able to get some of the people behind it on the show here in the next few weeks to give their side of the story. And I'm sure some of them will be listening now to see our initial reaction. My initial reaction is the same as it was for the some of you and for the purchasing of this land down here in town. I disagree with it. I don't like it. I don't think that burden should be on the taxpayers. I don't think the town or the county have any business being the business development side of things. If anything else, let's at least let one of these other things pan out before we go do anything else. But we're continuing to do it now. They might have good reason. I'm going to wait to hear. Because, to give them credit, they have, as you said a second ago, they have started to bring a lot more eyes onto the town. So through the system that we are playing in, you have to determine whether the trade-off is worth it or not. Now, the system that we're playing in is not a system I like, and I want it to be dissolved. I don't think it should be on the taxpayers. None of this is our concern. They shouldn't be buying it. They shouldn't be dealing with these sort of things. On the other hand, they have done a lot to bring attention to the town now. Has the benefit outweighed the negatives? And I guess that's the biggest question, because whether I like it or not, whether I want my utopia or not, isn't the question, isn't the concern. The thing is this is the bounds and the limits in which they're able to operate by. So,
well, I think you're going to see, you'll see already a lot of the merchants within Rocky Mount are seeing an uptick. We've got at least 2 new restaurants about to open imminently.
I want to talk about one of them
in downtown.
Actually, I want to talk about both of them.
There'll be another restaurant at the hotel along with a tasting room, and that farm to table peak and angle concept, which is very exciting. That business incubator is now open. It's coming in phases, along with the corporate apartments that are above them, and then comes the next stage. Will be the peak and angle store, the restaurant, the tasting room, and then we'll move into, I think the next phase will be development of the hotel above, and then we go further back into the development of the conference centre, which I'm not going to discuss at the moment. So there is a lot going on. There's a lot of energy in the town, and it's good energy. And I empathise a little bit with your comments, but there's a lot more to it. Of course there is. But we are looking to have a podcast with Holland Purdue and Robert Wood. And we're going to ask them the hard questions. And, they're going to put their opinion forth on the purchase of the Alt Bank, which to a certain extent makes sense in one hand, but there's still another side that we need to explore, and try and figure out the rationale, and that's okay. But you know what, Holland and Robert are looking to be transparent about that, and therefore
credit is due, because what other politician in this town has offered to come on the show to that extent? None. We've reached out to plenty and asked them and have been declined or just completely ignored. We've given every other politician out there the opportunity to come on and speak their mind, and we've never been overly disrespectful to them. We've never, nothing to, and he's the only one. So in the spirit of transparency, credit where credit's due. They did a massive favor for us back around New Year's. I'm not going to say what it is, but they know what it is, and I certainly appreciate them for that. When they probably didn't have to, because we have been overly critical about what they did us the favor for. Yeah. Still did it because, I'm just being honest. We give credit where credit's due. Like I said, we've been hard critics of the harvester, but we've also given them credit when they've seemed to be getting, out of their own way and starting to get, you know what I mean? Like,
and the volunteers behind that whole that whole project, the Harvester project, the volunteers behind it are absolutely dedicated, and you've got to take your hat off to them. They're looking for to raise the cultural experience within Rocky Mount. And I tip my hat to them. Their resolve is to be.
Yeah, the staff
admired.
there is phenomenal. Always has been. They're always super nice, and we've got a lot going on here. As you said, the 151st festival, I believe, is coming here soon. It was just announced that a Zaxby's is coming to fill in the old Burger King. Yep. And I'm not a big fan of that. I don't really particularly care for Zaxby's, but it's something. And if you're getting stuff to come into the town, it does mean you're growing, essentially, which I guess is a net positive.
Yep.
I was kind of hoping a Biscuitville would come into that location, because I don't know if you ever had Biscuitville, but it's phenomenal. I was really hoping for that.
I never have. I've never been a fast chain guy.
This is a regional chain, so it's a little bit different. When you get to regional chains, stuff tends to be a little bit better. National chains are garbage for the most part. When you get down to regional, like Whataburger and things like it, tends to be just something a little bit, they set themselves apart a bit. Zaxby's is just I don't know, they have chicken wings and chicken and stuff. It's kind of like I don't know. It's a little different than KFC. I don't think they have like buckets of chicken and like KFC and Bojangles, but I think they have like just chicken inspired meals, more like Papa. I don't know. I've only been once, and I wasn't overly impressed. But that was 15 years ago. Right. But no less, it's moving into the town, so it's not an empty building anymore. Which aesthetically,
that is an argument that will be put forth by the town in that regard, and that's a viable argument. But where it loses I'm not going to get into that because I think we'll save that show for the town mayor and the town manager. The one thing that was brought to my attention through a number of sources is the 64 acres. It is my understanding that's a done deal. The concrete plant's moving into, or is getting its premises built by the town on land given to
the
company.
Over there in the industrial park, correct?
Yeah. And I understand why that was done. Kind of. I kind of do.
I don't know.
I don't necessarily agree with the mechanics.
The land still wasn't assessed.
I don't
that much, and that was a big deal.
Yeah, we know.
This most recent session was the assessment of land. It didn't really go up that much, and they paid well over double for that land. And I'm still trying to comprehend that.
I'm still confusing that, and I have separate comments on that. Maybe at another time. But it turns out that the guy that owns the concrete company, and whatever element, however you wish to view this, he won the bid, whether it was for pouring the concrete in that facility that the town was going to pay for, that was the land given to the concrete company to relocate to. He unsurprisingly wins the bid to pour the concrete
for his own facility.
For his own facility.
Oh well, I mean that makes
now. I
don't know if it should have been a bid on that.
I'm not saying anything untoward went there at all. He's in the business of bidding, and I'm sure it was a fair and legal bid. But unfortunately, and I am the skeptic, it does create a bad optic. Yeah. And I'm not saying you should have automatically given that contract to Turner's because he was the only alternative within the town to make a comparable bid. But it's just a dreadful optic. And I don't know how you resolve that, because it was done fairly. And I understand all the counter arguments to that. And I can anticipate every single one of them. The fact remains, it's just a bad, no matter how fairly it was done, the fact remains it's a bad optic. And that's no disrespect to the town or the owner of the concrete company. None whatsoever. But it's just a horrible bloody optic. Anyway, over to you, Billy.
Well, I mean, like you said, we'll get into that more because once again, he's one of the few that will come out here and be transparent about it. He'll answer our questions, so we look forward to discussing that. But everybody knows my views on things. I don't particularly care for any of the government. It's nothing personal against anybody. It wouldn't matter. On a personal level, I like Holland a lot. I think he's very ambitious. I think he's incredibly smart. I think he's he gets out there and he mingles amongst the town and he's
not afraid to take it on. That's power to him for that.
But that's the natural dynamic here. You have to have pushback, and that's where we come into play. You have to give that pushback, but you have to do it at a respectful level. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get nothing accomplished going out there and just acting like complete and total jackasses. So you go out there, you let your side of it be heard and his side, and
I think there's
cards fall where they may.
I think there's a little bit of mutual respect in that regard. In fact, I know there is.
Yeah, but I'd have the same view whether he was the mayor or whether Steve Engel won again. We go back to, a couple of years ago when we were doing the shows, very critical of Steve Engel, and he was ready to probably ride off into the sunset with his final term. And I'd like to think that our shows we did in that month probably swung the election quite a bit, because when you look back, our show with Philip Bain talking about the Morris Hotel, and our show with Brian not long after dealing with the Harvester, and even our show with Holland leading up to the mayor were three of our most listened to shows we've ever had. We've had some phenomenally big, massive guests on this show from all across the country.
Still locally.
But the local aspect, people tuned in to want to listen to it. Yeah. So people are tuning in and listening. One of our biggest shows here lately was our school board show. People are tuning in to listen to these sort of things. So, credit to them for coming on the show, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. I know some other things I wanted to get into. Let's see here. I know for everybody out there, obviously we are the number one podcast in the German Baptist community.
I was waiting for that.
And I missed that at the beginning. We were supposed to have one of our former German Baptist members here tonight, which is why we're number one in that community. He couldn't make it out. Apparently there was a hay baler incident. Amos, we wanted him on here to talk about something. Cause I know he'd been to Destin before, kind of wanted to bounce some ideas off of him and let him kind of sell you on that. So unfortunately he's not here tonight. But moving forward, hopefully when the cameras come into place, he'll be a little bit closer. He'll be able to come over a little bit more often and make that work. So kind of want to hear your thoughts on this, because we're going into, like I said, the Libertarian Party National Convention this weekend, where Trump's going to be there, RFK, Vivek Ramaswamy, all these people. And here recently, Trump has, him and Biden have agreed to these debates or whatever with all these different stipulations. And he comes out and says, I'm willing to debate Crooked Joe. But I mean, I have never in my life been more convinced that this is all just a show. This is all theater. They are all a part of it. And we are all
puppets on a string.
What else could it be? I mean, seriously, we are allegedly staring down the barrel of one of the most, tumultuous times in American history. And I don't know. I mean, God, I don't know. This is getting, it just seems like everything is so, I think Trump's going to win. Landslide. I think they have probably at this point in time struck a deal with the deep state or whatever and said, okay, well, we're going to continue our wars over here because they're not going to be blamed on you, and you can get your wall and your border policy, and we'll, send some of these immigrants overseas, and then we'll send some of them back. I mean, it's just, what the hell is going on?
I wish I knew. And then you get the Iranian president crashing in a 25, 30-year-old US-made helicopter up in the mountains with a heavy fog, and he decides to fly the helicopter straight into a mountain. The lunacy, it's afoot. I just don't know. I don't know. The Libertarian Convention, I wish that they would be able to step in front of the duopoly, but they're always stepping behind it. And if they could step in front of this, I think they would have a far greater presence in how we can get rid of this duopoly.
Well, kudos to them and LP and Angela McArdle. I think she's the national chair for getting this together, for getting Trump there, for getting RFK there. It's going to bring a lot of eyes and a lot of attention. I'm truly blessed to be able to be a part of it. But it's just, the more and more I go along about it, I like the Libertarian Party as far as I think their principles align with mine as much as anybody's. We agree on about 90% of it, but the 10% we're just at each other's throats about, and it's hard to win off that.
Is that a healthy disagreement?
To an extent, it is.
That can develop into a workable compromise, because what we have now between the two is exactly that. We have complete division, no compromise, nothing, but the outcome remains the same. Massive debt, and we're all screwed to the ground.
Well, that's why it's going to be a good thing that they show up here, because people are going to wonder, why did they go to the Libertarian Party? They're going to look up what the Libertarian Party principles are, and maybe this doesn't make me a good Libertarian, but I'm about at the point, to where at some point in time you have to set an example. And I don't know who sets that example, and I don't know where this comes, and I'm not,
Yeah, but their national convention is now. It should have been way before. They should have been.
The Republicans and Democrats haven't done theirs yet either.
Yeah, but they're still lagging.
They already know who their candidates.
They've got their structure and candidates.
But the LP hasn't put up a good candidate either way. Nobody I don't think is going to be the only one. I think that there's some smart guys. Don't get me wrong. Every single one of them are incredibly smart. The only one I think has the charisma.
It's not It's not RFK vying for the Libertarian. He's not.
Well, he's vying for Libertarian votes. That's why he's coming.
Is he not vying for the Libertarian ticket? Being a
I don't think that's that. If that was going to happen, it would have to happen this weekend. And I don't think he's going to go in and make an announcement and say. And even if he did, I don't think he would win it either way. That would have to have been something that should have been in place months ago.
Yeah, but that's decided by the convention, so it can only be decided this weekend.
So very well could be. Now there is a possibility if our buddy Spike wanted to go in there and say, you know what, I'm throwing my hat into the ring for all the delegates out there without doing a lick of campaigning, good chance he would probably still win the nomination. That is possible.
Yeah. And that's where I'm saying.
But I don't think that's going to happen with RFK this weekend.
But with the libertarian movement, it's always working from that step behind. And they've got to figure out how to get in front of that.
Well, this weekend's a good opportunity to do that, because people are going to start looking in and tuning in and seeing, why did Trump go there?
It's very intriguing.
And we're going to be sitting there front row chipping out. It's going to be a blast. I'm super excited.
I'm just that to me is an involvement in politics that, from Little Backwoods Rocky Mount, the Appalachian podcast and the libertarian movement, is participating in. That's a pretty cool thing, Billy.
Trying to explain that to my wife has been the hardest thing, because to her it's like, you're going to DC again for the weekend and not going to be here to help take care of these kids. But from my perspective, it's like, I started this thing 3 years ago as a hobby, and I've worked my way up to the point to where I'm getting media passes to go cover the former president of the United States. I've gotten media passes to go cover NASCAR events. You know what I mean? Like, just applying for these things. A lot of the times it's just asking. So,
and credit to Chip being libertarian. That man is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Oh, I actually applied for Appalachian Media LLC as well as a backup, and I got approved as well. So I'm technically on there twice. So,
I like it. Can I ride on your coattails?
Absolutely.
That's perfect.
You could be William Riddle and I'll be Benjamin Riddle.
There we go.
I just wanted to cover our bases, because when Chip told me he got the tickets, he's like, it was just for one. And I said, well, see if you can, get me in as a cameraman or something. And then I went and applied myself, and we both ended up getting approved secondarily. So, we got the Libertarian, we got the room up there, whatever. And hopefully I'd like to get in front of these people and ask them a few questions.
By the way, Chip is well aware of your snoring. If not, by the way, Chip, he snores like a freaking pig. Unbelievable.
Well, if it goes down the way the last trip went down, I doubt Chip will be in there to hear me snoring. Anyway,
there is that possibility.
Maybe the nurses will hear him. Or the doctor's on call.
That's such a cheap shot, Billy. From your code. Oh, dear.
I'm super excited. I guess he's going to come by and pick me up on Friday morning super early. We're going to make our way up there. I've got the itinerary I've already looked at. I can't remember the whole kind of deal. But we're going to be able to get in front of a lot of people that are influential. He's already reached out to some reporters. There's one on here. It's got over 1 million followers on Instagram. She's going to come do an interview with us. I can't remember her name. These are some big names we're going to have come on and do sound bites, and hopefully we'll put together a couple of shows.
You're going to miss Cornwallis and Abe Lincoln. We
really are. That is really going to break my heart. But I'm thinking if we go up there and make a big enough impact, every one of them will get a chance to come meet all y'all at some point in time in the near future.
There we go.
So
I like how you think, Billy.
Look, I got a lot of confidence in us. I got a lot of confidence in this area and what we have and what we have to offer. And you put us in front of people, and we'll figure it out. It doesn't have to be all of us. It can be a couple of us. But with Chip's being Libertarian banner, that's very recognizable there. It's going to be one of the most recognizable symbols there. For sure. And then when you throw in the Appalachian podcast right beside it, we're gonna meet some new people and hopefully have some golden opportunities here in the future. It's blown my mind. It's blown my mind. I'm going to get to sit in front of Donald Trump a few feet away and record him and what he's saying, and maybe even get a sound bite. Maybe if I can just get in front of him 2 seconds, say, Donald, what can we do?
Hit me up.
What can we do? Hand him the brochure. Say, look, just come down here.
We're open.
Yeah. We got this place for you to stay. I know you're on the campaign trail. You can't hit every small town, but you can hit this one. Come show Appalachia that you care. I'll say the same thing to RFK. I'll say every one of them.
Oh, yeah.
And if only one hits, well,
there we go.
That's all we need.
On the map.
I also saw here lately where I guess Governor Abbott pardoned this guy. Do you remember this guy a couple of years ago? He was Daniel Penny, I think his name is. It was in Texas. And a gentleman in the BLM riots walked up to his car with an AR-15 at the low ready.
Ooh,
and the guy in the car was an Army sergeant or whatever, walked up to the car. And of course, all this, the Summer of Love 2020, all these BLM riots and shit's going on. The guy in the car, he ended up shooting him because he come up to him with low ready, and he ended up getting convicted, of course, in a liberal city. And
wait, was that Austin?
Houston, I think. Houston or Dallas, one of the two. And when all this came out, Spike, I just remember this in the LP world, it's been 4 years ago, but because the guy who was shot and killed was kind of libertarian, he was an anarchist, kind of like us. He was there. But he was there at the BLM riots, and he was there when all that stuff was going down. So the perception of it, whether he was a good guy or not, the perception from the guy in the car was, destruction. So Spike took a lot of flack for that, for defending that guy. And I see where it was smart to defend him, or not necessarily smart, but I understand where he was coming from. Because honestly, probably at the end of the day, it was just a big misunderstanding. But yeah, regardless of what you are, you cannot approach somebody when tensions are high. You have to be able to read the room, and you cannot approach somebody at the low ready. I'm sorry,
if you know what a low ready is.
Yeah, well, you can explain it to the people for anybody
that low ready is it's a slung rifle, and it is not in a relaxed position. Okay, so the firing hand is definitely on the pistol grip of the weapon. The finger is outside the trigger guard, but the secondary arm is raised slightly, and it's in its combat ready position. So all he's got to do is raise the weapon to a cheat weld to get a target acquisition. And then you're flipping your fire control and engaging with your trigger finger. So it's a very, very quick transition from low ready to engage. Very, very quick. I mean, way less than a second.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's as you're coming up with your weapon, you're clicking on to fire and your finger is engaged in a ready position. It is under a second. So when you're presented with a low ready, this guy's cocked, ready, locked and loaded and ready to rock and roll. So yeah, that is an immediate threat. Now, if his weapon was slung and it was in a non-threatening, non-low ready position, you shouldn't be under threat. The guy's there legally carrying, and he's no threat to you in the manner that he presents himself. But as soon as that low ready position, I'm sorry, that's a very threatening, intimidating position to be in. And within a second of engagement. And that's the important part. Less than a second to engage. So yeah, that's a threat.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was essentially kind of like a Kyle Rittenhouse incident, except for unfortunately this guy ended up being found guilty, and he pardoned him and stuff. But it kind of leads to a greater question. I mean, what in the world is, these cities? We see everything that's going on, and I pay attention to the feeds on X and Instagram and stuff, and it's just video after video of like minority locations and cities. And honestly, I want to get Brian and Darnell back on the show to talk about this kind of thing, but because my theory is it just, I was going down the road the other day and I was sitting there thinking about it, and Brian and Darnell, just use them as an example because we've had them on the show. They're very articulate. They're very smart. They're very well thought out and they're very well researched. And a lot of these people out here in the, I guess in the black community, whatever you want to say, there's some of these leaders or some of these stupidest, most ignorant people in the world, and they put these people front and center. And I'm almost inclined to believe that they're purposely doing this, the Democrat side of things, purposely doing this, putting these people out here front and center, not for the pandering aspect, but basically just to be able to put to rest. They're putting the most ill-equipped and dumbest people front and center so they can turn around in a few years and let, Trump or whoever it is come in and be that dictator that's going to wipe it all clean and say we need to get back to reasonability. But I think they're doing it to set them up for failure. I think they do this so they can sit there and in 10 years, somebody will say, well, look, we let all these people have all these positions and look what they did. And I mean, I really think we were doing so good in the 90s. You know what I mean? Like race relations, even up to the Obama era, race relations were so good in this country. People were getting along. We were understanding each other. We had that happy medium, and then it just all went to shit. Why?
Well, that's the divisive narrative of politics. I mean, you've got to keep them divided, and we fall for it every time.
Apparently so.
I mean, without fail, we fall for it. And there's no excuse for falling for it, because you just got to open your eyes and realize that, put yourself in that position. Just open your bloody eyes and think. I mean, stop believing what you're being fed.
I mean, we see that after the J6 thing that they're eventually going back and finding these people left and right. Do we not honestly believe they didn't have drone footage and camera footage of all these people doing these things in the BLM riots? All they're waiting for is that right time to go back through and pick them all back up and say, well, you committed this, you committed this, because they've been all led to believe they can get away with it right now. That's why you're seeing all these issues with Palestine and all these, some of these universities. But now they're coming and because they're questioning a certain ethnicity or a certain country, now the pushback is really coming back in, and they're starting to realize, well, we can't get away with this stuff anymore.
It even goes a lot broader than that, funnily enough, with the fact that the pharmaceutical industry is now backpedaling as fast as it can in admitting the COVID vaccine injuries. And this is coming out, conveniently at the time of election. But nonetheless, what a division is that? And again, the conspiracy theory is turning into the spoiler alert. And we've always been very anti-vax for all the scientific correct reasons.
Well, for this one, because it's not even a vaccine. They had to change the definition to consider. Because what does a vaccine do? You get a chickenpox or smallpox vaccine, you don't get smallpox. If
Well,
you
it's
get this jab, then all of a
exactly.
sudden you're still getting it.
It was an experimental inoculation that still hasn't got FDA full approval, only under emergency power. So we are being proven correct at every juncture that we cross.
Oh yeah, just recently came out that yes, they
Every
were
juncture that we
funding
cross.
gain of function research in Wuhan.
You know,
like, I got into arguments with people left and right about this,
and that was so evident in 2020. But oh no, in 2020 you were the conspiracy theorist. Well, in 2024, guess what? You were ahead of the game. You know, you were a voyeur. You saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, how many people did we see in videos and sporting events on camera collapse like never before? We have never, ever seen anything. That's not normal. It's not normal for professional athletes to collapse on the field. None of this stuff is normal.
No, so these are vaccine injuries.
80 to 85% of this country,
but
by their numbers, got at least one. Now, I think it probably might be a little lower than that. I think a lot of people probably went in there and faked around, but not much lower. It might be around 75. But that still tells you that.
But they're now backpedaling
25%.
so much. And what does that tell you about, you know, when you are being labelled a conspiracy theorist, which we have been labelled countless times, and we will continue to be labelled conspiracy theorists. And I almost view that as a badge of honour.
Well, we've got the receipts, and we were right. Go back and look.
Because we were proven right. And that isn't a right-wing conspiracy theory. It's no right-wing, left-wing, anything. We backed it up with due diligence. A little bit of research. It didn't take much. It really didn't.
No, it was showing you in the first couple of months. If nothing else, it was showing you in the first couple of months who was it hitting the most. People with multiple, what do they call it? Morbid obesity and multiple, whatever they called it, and older people. Like there was no reason to be concerned if you were younger.
Now you're looking at the vaccine.
Comorbidities, multiple comorbidities.
Well, the comorbidity was what it knocked off first. So with comorbidity, you were really in trouble. But now we were looking at, you know, like you say, people in their prime, professional athletes. And now we're going back to the general population. They're going, oh, well, you know, we didn't really disclose about the problem of blood clot. We really didn't. Yeah, we knew about it, but we didn't disclose X, Y, Z. It's all out there, you know. So yeah, we're in a very confused geopolitical situation that, quite frankly, scares the pants off me right now.
It should concern people. Like people should be, you know, very unstable.
We can't be paying $1 trillion in our interest payment a year to survive as USA Inc. You cannot do that and pay $1 trillion just for your interest payment. We are there, right? We're there. So, and you cannot. That is absolutely 100% unsustainable. I don't care what statistician, bean counter accountant, DC economist, that is 100% unsustainable. You cannot do it. I don't care how you're going to explain it, but it's a bald-faced lie.
And while at the same time we're continuing to send money to Ukraine, we're continuing to send money to Israel. I mean, and I don't know. There's so many moving parts, and it's so detrimental to everything. And like I said, you starting to see some of these black communities, as we kind of circle back around to what I was saying earlier, a lot of these black communities out here are starting to speak up and say, you know, what about us? You know, how you bringing these illegal
what
immigrants
about Biden's commencement
and
speech
giving them, giving them this
Wisconsin?
money? Now, look, I'm sorry, but you people in the cities, you're not entitled to that money any more than the illegals are. I'm sorry. That's not your money either. You know, it sucks. It's taken till now for you to step up and say this is BS, but it's only BS because you're not getting it now. You know what I mean? Like you don't deserve the fruits of somebody else's labor any more than anybody else does.
Agreed.
But the bottom line is, though, there's still there. It just seems to me after following, Instagram and Facebook and some of these different places, it just seems like they are purposely demonizing certain communities. The black community being one. They're doing this purposely to get tensions risen.
Division wins.
That's exactly what they're doing. And they're buying into it because they're going out here and they're doing these grabs. They're going in all these stores. And a lot of times it is black people. They're going in, and these are the videos they're showing. They're going in and they're smashing, grabbing in all these stores and stuff. They are purposely seeding sentiment for a race war. And it just seems like that's the direction they're trying to go. We can't fall for it, but they are promoting the worst of people. And that's not just black people. That's white people. They're promoting the most degenerate of all of us to incite the division. And we got to figure out a way to set aside our political differences and figure out how to squash this stuff. Cause I know folks like Brian and Darnell, and once again, I keep using them as examples cause they're such good friends of the show. I know they're there for the black community. They support the black community, but at some point in time, you got to say, well, you really want to support these people just because they're black when they're out here? I don't want to support people just because they're white. There's assholes out here that are white. I wouldn't want to go around for nothing. I like to, kick them in their head sometimes. I don't want to be around them. They don't represent me. So I just want to we got to get over this, because I think at the end of the day, it's a class issue. It's not a race issue at all. It's class. We have more in common with them than they have in common with some, trailer park trash. And just like we don't have anything in common with people that live in ghettos.
Well, we
have in common with them too.
Yeah. We've always promoted on the show, about affecting local politics, with the situation that presents itself. And that's always going to be a little bit of a struggle with the carrot and stick existence of the current political infrastructure. But I think, when it comes to supporting local communities, we can make that change. And I'm that glass half full guy. I still think we can do it. And as a local community, we can ride this wave of divisive, it is so unnecessary. But
doing it.
This election cycle is going to bring out the worst in everybody.
I think so as well.
And I hope we can remain calm and sensible throughout, and come up with positive solutions. Because if you ain't coming with a solution, you ain't coming with shit. So, come up with a positive solution and everything can be happy again. It really can. I mean,
we have all the tools to make it happen.
Yeah.
We have good people. We have, at the end of the day, look, we outnumber them 1,000 to 1. And when I say them, I mean the evil people. Like, good is certainly outweighing the bad, but the problem is the bad is being exploited and promoted far above everything else by media outlets, by the government.
And greed is the ultimate decider. And it's not what, your country can do for you, but it's what you can do for your country. And that's where we're at.
Or for your neighborhood. Start at your neighborhood. Start at your neighborhood.
That filters all the way down to your street, your neighborhood, your hamlet, your village, your town. I think, good folks will ride this storm, if we're given the opportunity, where we're not, being drawn by greed, and greed's the ultimate. I mean, that's Satan at work right there. I've always believed that to be the case. That's the greatest power that Satan has, is greed. And he's got us by the balls right now.
Well, the worst part about it is, too, when it comes to the Faustian deal, for most of us, it's not that dream deal. It's not, well, I'm going to come give you a mansion and a car. You just do what I say. It's getting to the point to where it's a loaf of bread to feed your family. It's
going to get down to
a sack of meat. You know what I mean? Are you willing to really trade in your morals and your values? Because it's going to get to that point in time if we don't start curbing it very, very soon. Like, it's going to come down. That's where, and that we've showed that during COVID, people were willing to give up their morals and values to get a jab just to keep a job, or just to, keep a social status, or to be able to go get food at McDonald's in New York City. while the 15 to 20% of us who were rejecting it were ostracized and outcasted and called liars and conspiracy theorists and murderers, and we want to kill grandma, and we were right the entire fucking time.
Yeah, afraid so.
I haven't got an apology yet.
No, I don't expect one either.
No. And that's fine and dandy, because I don't need an apology, because I know myself and my family are all safe and they don't have that shit running through their veins. And I know some people, like, I'm not knocking you. I'm not knocking you. But you got to do better next time. We got to do better. You see the end result. We can turn back around and sue the balls out of these people. They didn't have the right to do these things. Educate yourself more in the future. Know what your rights are and know what you're capable of doing. Yeah. It doesn't take a lot. You know what I mean? If there's 10 nurses on the floor and they say, we're walking out the door right now, if you force us to do this, what are they going to do? They can't hire 10 nurses in 2 minutes to go in there and take care of these 20 patients, 50 patients that need to be taken care of right now. You know what I mean? You have more power. I don't care if you're black,
you have
white,
the power.
Gay, straight,
and that's
immigrant,
exactly where
whatever the case.
That's where exactly where Spike.
You have the power. Yes, you are the power.
100% on the money. That is a great movement. You are the power, and believe in that. You know, and don't get wrapped up into this hateful. And it's so hateful. Just don't get wrapped up in it. And it's so hard not to, the way we're bombarded with it. But, you know.
That's the problem, is that, like I said, it's easy to fall into the trap, because you watch these videos and you see them a lot of times without context, and you see somebody beating them up, and then you read the comments and it's like, well, you know, it's just, this is where people's minds, it's easy to get sucked into. It's easy to see, you know, just a small post. It's like, they'll use manipulation, and it's coming from both sides as well. Don't just think it's one side or the other. Manipulation is coming from both sides to get you to want to hate people based off of a video you see. Like, you see, you know, 5 or 6 black people jumping a white person in New York or Chicago, wherever the case may be. That's going to make you think bad things, but you need to understand that is an isolated incident, and it's being streamed straight to your brain, whereas 20 years ago it would never happen. Like, and it's causing, you know, pull yourself back. Just pull yourself back, because that's not the norm everywhere. That's not how most people act. That's not, you don't have to walk down the street and look at people of different colors or races awkwardly because you saw a video on the internet, but that's the intent. That's the intent.
Have a little bit of love in your heart, and that will go a long way. It really will.
It certainly will.
You know?
Well, I think that's probably a good spot to go ahead and call this a show. Is there anything we missed? Is there anything?
You know, we've got some great shows coming up. The new equipment's going to be challenging, which I think is a good thing. Everyone needs to be challenged in their life at whatever age they're at. We're gonna have a chat with Robert Wood and Holland Purdue. Again, in the air of transparency. So, yeah, let's just keep moving in that direction.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm hoping this weekend I'm going to set up the equipment in our room, maybe even at the booth. Hopefully Chip and I'll get enough sound bites here and there to piece together a show or two. But in the very near future, we've got some phenomenal people lined up, some people I'd really like to get on the show, reach out to and get them to come up to the cabin. We get everything set up. We got some people ready to come in and get that ball rolling. Being Memorial Day weekend, we probably won't be able to talk a lot about it with the people backing us until maybe a couple weeks from now. So we're still looking at a couple months out, but once it takes place, hopefully we're going to have a lot of fun. Maybe we can even get Spike to come up and be our first guest on that show or something. We'll figure something out. It'll
By the way, I've got to give a big shout out to my mates, my newfound mates in Bimini at the Hideaway. There's a chap there, Dewey, who runs the show. He's got a great little hideaway bar there in Alistown in Bimini. And I just, that was exactly the feel that Heather and I were looking for. And we found it at the Hideaway in Bimini. Just a great little place. What a vibe. It was all about the vibe. So anyway, shout out to them.
No, hell yeah. I saw the video. Maybe we'll post it here this week or something like that, giving him the Appalachian Podcast t-shirt, because we are down in the islands now, ladies and gentlemen. So, for everybody that helps support this show, like I said, You Are the Power. Go check them out, Spike Co. And they do a ton of stuff helping out the Appalachian region, going in there and taking down corruption and localities and stuff. And it's always nice to have Spike in our back pocket in case politicians around here get too awful corrupt. We'll just bring him in and bring Libertarian the head of Libertarian World down
that
onto this community if we have
scrutiny.
to. Yes, absolutely. We don't want that in this town. So that's why I haven't called him in yet at this point in time. But go follow them at You Are the Power. Great thing. Chip Slate, being Libertarian, one of our recurring co-hosts. Go give them a follow. They have some of the best memes on Facebook and stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Some of the other pages, go follow them at the U.S. Space Force. I think he's got that page as well.
By the way, I heard NASA was looking to secure a space at the Summit View Business Park.
Why not? Why not?
It's just something that I heard. It's unsubstantiated. I can't confirm the rumor, but I hear NASA is looking to get into the Summit View.
We're going to go and look into that here in the next week, ladies and gentlemen, for every single one of you. Also, some of the big people that help us out, Rocky Mount Burger Company, go down there and check them out. Brian, they have a cool little video they released. They're early in here lately. I'm going to show that on X here in the next couple of days. It'll show you where people who want to come to this town and hang out and stay for a couple of days and come on the show, where we'll be able to house you. You can go get food at the Burger Company. We didn't get a chance to mention it, though, but the restaurant across the street will be Cheryl's new place, and we've had her on the show before. We've talked about her quite a bit. I don't know what the name of the restaurant is, but apparently the aesthetics in there are nice. And if you've never had any of Cheryl's food, her food truck was what was the name of her food truck? Cheryl's Ella's Eats. If you had never had some of that, I mean, her food is phenomenal. Now she's got a brick and mortar location right here in Rocky Mount. Super excited to talk about that with her maybe in a few weeks or whatever,
sure.
And get her in here because, of course, Morse Hotel is going to be bringing a restaurant here, farm to table as well. And Rocky Mount Smokehouse, of course, went there a couple weeks ago, got me the chicken sandwich, and it was phenomenal. I had to take both kids in there without Tara, and Benji did not want to sit in a high chair, and there wasn't another high chair to sit in, so having to try and feed two that are wanting to run around the entire time and listen to music that's outside was hell on wheels. But the staff was super cool. They helped me out. They helped chase them down and give them some treats here and there to keep them occupied. They brought out some food a little early to keep them. So I love Buddy. I love the Rocky Mount Smokehouse and what they're doing there. We got some phenomenal businesses here in Rocky Mount. They're super supportive of the show, and we appreciate them.
Always a big shout out to Living Proof.
Yeah, Living Proof as well. Hopefully, we'll get back in there and host some of their trivia nights here in the future and do a few things. It's been kind of tough here lately with everything going on and trying to expand. But once we get the cameras up and rolling and we get a set schedule and get things more operational, hopefully we can figure out a way to do some more shows and some more opportunities here in downtown. But also as well, one more time, patreon.com/GetOnTap if you want to become a subscriber. It's just $10 a day at minimum. But if you want to give more, you can always give more. We certainly appreciate all the help. Some of our big subscribers out there, Brad Kennett, he does Lawn Work Solutions, Blake Holcomb, Metalworks, Holcomb Metalworks. He can do some really cool stuff. Like I've seen some of his stuff on there. Like if you wanted some decorative stuff outside, welded to metal, like he's phenomenal at that kind of stuff. So give him a follow, and for all the other people out here on Patreon that do subscribe to us, we certainly appreciate it. And that's patreon.com/GetOnTap. Once again, for only $10 a day. Always you can give more. We certainly appreciate it. I do have a third kid on the way. I would sincerely appreciate as many people as I can to subscribe, or that one-time donation at Cash App or Venmo at Get On Tap will go a long way. So sorry to the German Baptist community for not having your fortunate son on here tonight. He had to go away for reasons, but hopefully he'll be back the next time. And did I miss anything, Simon?
No, I think you got it all there, Billy. I mean, that was pretty slick.
Excellent. I certainly appreciate you making your way out here tonight. And I'm going to go down here now and relieve my wife of kid duties so I can wake up in the morning with all my limbs intact.
Good job.
Therefore, until the next time, we'll catch y'all hopefully this weekend. We'll have some phenomenal guests lined up, so be on the lookout, and we'll catch you next time.
Was born in the dead heat of the summer, raised on a mountainside by a deadhead father and mother. little hippie and a little southern. Just what I needed so bad, but never saw it coming. She liked to get high, a little sweet, a little shy. She liked to get high. Barely 18, both brave and innocent. Grenadine campfire song stained on her lips. She took me for a ride one summer. She said I'd never forget. She blew my mind about 3 or 4 times. I ain't never been the same since. She liked to get high, a little sweet, a little shy, like a muscadine wine. She liked to get high. Smoky haze, a patchouli scent, a warm embrace and a gypsy scent, a stiff drink and a pinch hit, a memory Lord I haven't seen. She liked to get high, a little sweet, a little shy, like a muscadine wine. She liked to get high.